In this lesson, I want to walk through manually configuring IP on a network adapter. There are a number of ways I can achieve this. The first way is via the graphical interface. I have a network icon in my system tray. I can right-click on this and say Open Network and Sharing Center. From here, I can say Change Adapter Settings, and there is my Ethernet adapter. I could also get to this from the control panel, and in here you can see Network and Sharing Center. I could also say Start Settings, and here you can see Network and Internet. I can see Ethernet, and do Change Adapter Options. All will bring you to the same screen. From here, I select the properties of my network adapter. I can see the IPv4 protocol. There's also IPv6. I select Properties. Right now, I'm using Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, or DHCP. This means my IP configuration, my IP address, my subnet mask, my gateway are automatically assigned to me over the network. So too is my DNS configuration, but I could change this. I could say I want to use a specific IP configuration. I want to be 10.7.173.55. I put in my subnet mask. Because I've subnetted my network, so by default it said 255.0.0.0. This is because I set a 10. IP address. 10. is a Class A network. But obviously I don't want a single subnet of that entire 24-bit address space. So I've subnetted it. I've got smaller networks. So I'm putting in what is my subnet mask in my network. I can put in what is the default gateway where I'm going to send traffic that's not on my local subnet. I could also statically assign my DNS configuration, who are my DNS servers. Now I could just click Validate, so it's going to check that's a valid configuration, and then click OK. I'm going to cancel that. Another thing to notice in here, if I go back into my properties, you'll see alternate configuration. This is where I can't get to a DHCP server. The IP stack starts up, but there is no DHCP server available. By default, it will use automatic private IP address. This is a 169.254 address, and that will enable me to have basic communication with other machines on my local network, but really not much else. Normally, if I see a 169.254. something something IP address, I have problems. I can configure an alternate configuration. So when I'm configured to use DHCP, but I'm not getting offered an IP address, I could put in a whole set of configuration that we'll use in that circumstance. I can also do my IP configuration from a command prompt. Here I'm in an elevated command prompt session, and I can use the netsh command. I can look at my configuration, so net shell interface IP show config, and there I can see my current configuration. I could change this. I could say, well, I want my net shell, my interface for IP. I want to set my address on, name is my Ethernet. I want my source to be static, not DHCP. My address will be whatever I want. My subnet mask and my default gateway. Remember, if I use static IP configuration, machines cannot have the same IP address. Every machine must be unique. So when I do static IP configurations in a network, I need to have a very good scheme to track those IP addresses to make sure two machines don't get the same IP address. If they did, they would detect each other, and the IP stack would generally shut down on one of the machines. So that's how I could configure that. I could also configure my DNS servers using the netsh interface IP set DNS servers, the adapter, and then the names of the IP addresses. If I wanted to put it back to DHCP, then I can just use netshell interface IP set address. I'm doing it on my Ethernet, and I could just say DHCP, and it's saying it's already using that. So that's a way I can do my IP configuration from a command prompt. I can also use Powershell. Once again, I could do get net IP address, my interface alias. If I wasn't sure, I can just do get net IP address, showing me my alias is Ethernet, as I already knew. So I can do interface alias. The nice thing about Powershell and running it in the integrated scripting environment, the ISE, gives me IntelliSense. It's automatically completing the commands for me. so I can see the detail about that particular interface. From here, I could change the configuration. New net IP address. The interface alias would be Ethernet. Give it the IP address, 10.7.173.55. This time I'm doing a prefix length. So this is the slash, for example, 24. That would be the same as 255.255.255.0. And then what is my address family? Well, I'm doing IPv4. Press enter, and it would create that IP configuration. Now you'll notice I did not specify a default gateway. That's a route. So I would then do a new net route, once again specifying the alias, Ethernet, and I would have a destination prefix. It would be 0.0.0.0/0, so 0 bits in the subnet mask. Next hop would be my default gateway. So I'm adding a default route. Just like with the command prompt, I could actually set my DNS servers as well. Set the particular alias once again. You see a common pattern here. And then what are the various addresses? I could specify multiple ones if I wanted to. To undo that and go back to DHCP, I could do set net IP interface, the interface alias, and say DHCP enabled. And then I would just restart NetAdapter and the name. So they're the ways I can do my IP configuration. I can use the graphical interface, I can use the net shell from a command prompt, or I can use the various PowerShell commandlets.